Every athlete who steps up to a start line of an Ironman triathlon has a story, and those stories inspire others. You show them that there's a wide open, welcoming path to achieving more and becoming better. And there are no obstacles down that path other than the ones we ourselves create. Your personal story is the fire deep down inside that pushes you forward. We know you have those stories because no one can step up to an Ironman start line and not be profoundly and fundamentally changed. Let me prove it to you by sharing some of the most moving stories of Ironman North America 2019. Steve Swallow's son Garrett was a 22-year-old collegiate rugby player when he lost his life in a car accident 2 years ago. Steve's world was turned so upside down that he didn't know how to move forward. After someone placed a rugby ball at the crash site, Steve took it and painted it with Garrett's nickname. As an outlet for his grief, Steve started running.
You get on these long runs and you physically get worn out. You break down physically and emotionally you break down, right? And for me, it's a good time for me to think about life and think about Garrett.
And when he took part in Ironman Texas, he did the entire marathon holding that ball.
Steve, you are an Ironman. Garrett, you are an Ironman.
When Isabella Dayla was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in 2018, it had already spread to her spine, her brain, and elsewhere throughout her body. Cancer sucks. There is no way around it. And if you get cancer, there's not much you can do to control it. What you can control is your attitude.
I think that the positive thinking really makes a difference. And that's something that I'm not gonna lose. You know, fear is not a helpful emotion. You're not defeated till you stop trying, and I'm not gonna stop trying, so I'm not gonna be defeated.
She knew the cancer was back, but chose to do Wisconsin in spite of it all. And a week after I had the privilege of calling her across the line there, Isabella started radiation again. Isabella, know that your entire Ironman Ohana is behind you and pushing for you every day. Seeing one athlete come back from a cancer diagnosis is jaw-dropping, but Isabella wasn't the only athlete this year to fight back. 2 weeks after Bart Krodick completed his 11th Ironman, he was diagnosed with stage 4 mantle cell lymphoma and told he would only live a few more months.
You know, when my first doctor told me she didn't know how many months I had left, I mean, of course, you know, driving home, I'm crying. You know, I was by myself when my doctor told me, and I couldn't get a hold of my wife by phone, and I was, you know, blindsided by this. I knew I was sick.
Just months after his last chemo session, Bart completed his 12th Ironman in Maryland and is now qualified for a legacy spot to Kona. Way to go, Bart. The saying goes, a person doesn't get cancer, a family does. And Dustin Cook can attest to how true that is. Dustin suffered from brain cancer, and between the tumor growing inside his head and the chemo and radiation treatments needed to fight back, Dustin lost his ability to walk.
You know what this reminds me of is when I was learning how to walk again, these little girls here would grab my hand and make me walk to the bathroom.
Then he lost the ability a second time, but with the help of his 2 daughters, he learned once more.
It was a lot of work, it hurt really bad, but now I'm Ironman.
That's right, baby, you are an Ironman.
See you at the finish.
He's already an Ironman.
Dustin's courage and fortitude are inspirational to say the least, but it didn't stop there. Dustin chose to push his body further.
I just showing these girls what it means to live even when things don't go your way.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is a disease that is usually diagnosed at an autopsy because it often shows no symptoms and therefore isn't tested for. Bette Harold knows all about HCM because her son Zach was diagnosed just after signing on with Major League Soccer. Zach was a top-tier athlete his whole life, and the diagnosis was especially devastating for him and his family. Bette decided that if Zach couldn't run, she would run for him. She took up endurance sports as a way to support her son and educate other athletes about HCM.
It means the world to me that I have my son still, and I'm in the best health of my life. So not only has he been saved, he saved me also.
Giving up is always easier than continuing. Every Ironman athlete reaches a point in their race where they consider throwing in the towel because they just want to stop. But what if you didn't give up and still didn't make it to the finish line?
I'm tired, but I'm still stronger than I think. I can go farther than I think, and I can do this.
What if you DNF'd 4 times? Sue Russell knows the answer to that question.
So, story didn't end the way I hoped, but I'm alive to do another race.
Sue Russell, you will be an Ironman. To say that being a police officer is a hard job is an understatement. Officers are constantly put into high-stress situations, and they know that there's a chance they won't make it out.
LMPD officer and young mother killed in a fiery crash on Christmas Eve. Tonight, we're learning more about the 32-year-old officer who was killed when her cruiser burst into flames.
Demetrius Latham Jr. is an officer with the Louisville, Kentucky Metro Police Department. In December 2018, his friend and colleague, Deidre Mengadot, was killed during a routine traffic stop when her cruiser was struck by an intoxicated driver.
When I really thought about why I wanted to do the Ironman this year, it was for her. It's because I told her that I wanted to do it before I was 30. That was one of the last conversations that I had with my friend, and she told me to just do it. Stop putting it off. No matter what comes up, just go with it.
There are countless athletes who choose to race for others who can't. One such athlete is Tanya Roy. Tanya and her dear friend Lori Cove were both on their way to earning a legacy slot to Kona. While out on a training ride, Lori was hit by a drunk driver and suffered severe brain damage and paralysis. Since then, Tanya has dedicated herself to racing for Lori and earning her way to Kona on Lori's behalf. 3 years after the collision, Lori is still fighting her way back to health and wants nothing more than to be out there racing again with all of you.
Anything is possible. It is possible for Lori to live through the night of her accident. It's possible that 3 years later, she is starting to talk. And it is not the journey that she wanted, but anything is absolutely possible.
Sydney Smith, at age 30, made the difficult decision to have both legs amputated below the knee when a rare degenerative nerve disease cost him motor function in his legs. Losing the ability to walk is devastating, but with the support of his family, Sydney learned to walk on prosthetics and then chose to take on another task, Ironman Florida.
And I wouldn't give up the depression, I wouldn't give up the hard times, I wouldn't give up anything. I wouldn't even change my life for a perfect body. Those things that you just can't be taught. It has to be, you have to learn on your own. But if I can do it, anybody could do something like this. It just is something that, I have to believe in. You have to put some faith into it. You gotta, put in the work and the grit, and before you know it, you're gonna be right here at this finish line.
Speaking of possible, I have one more story to share with you before we close out this video. Deb Aston suffers from Parkinson's, a progressive nervous system disorder that affects motor functions. In 2018, Deb was signed up to participate in Ironman Florida. When Hurricane Michael hit, she was worried that the race would be canceled and wasn't sure if she would ever be healthy enough to try again.
Haines City was unexpected. Got to about mile 30 and had some issues. And here I am. First of all, Parkinson's or not, you have to follow your dream. You only go around once in this life.
Deb made it all the way to the run and started experiencing severe cramps that could very well have stopped her from moving forward. And that's when she met Maggie Hudson. Maggie and Deb had not known each other before that day, and yet Maggie stopped to help Deb in her fight. Maggie walked with Deb, sometimes helping her forward to stay on pace. And when Deb's muscles would cramp, Maggie would be right there to help alleviate the pain. In all my years of calling people across the line, these are the moments that make this sport so special. Maggie risked her own on-time finish to help another athlete get there. She didn't know Deb's story before that night. She just saw a fellow athlete in need and stepped up to help make a dream come true. Deb is the embodiment of the spirit of Ironman. Don't stop, don't quit, don't give up. And Maggie is the embodiment of the heart of Ironman. Anything is possible. Every person who participates is a champion and an inspiration. Now it's your turn. Go out knowing that you inspire the people around you to do great things. Remember to enjoy the day and encourage the athletes you encounter, because it might be your support that gives them the push they need to reach the finish line. You have already achieved so much by being willing to put yourself out there. You all will be an Ironman.